Hello and welcome to that F1 show. I'm Alan, and the other voice you'll hear, or the other person you'll see if you're watching on YouTube, is Roger. We are the hosts of that F1 show. This week we were at Imola, or correct me if I'm wrong, the Emilia Romagna. Sorry, Romagna. You don't obviously pronounce the G. The Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, home of Ferrari. Is that correct? Home of Ferrari?
It's one of their.
Do they count both
Right.
Monzo? But do they not do their pre-season testing at Imola? No.
No, so they have a track beside in Maranello. They have a track there where they do a lot of testing, and they also Mugello. They've also used Mugello as a track.
Magello's where I'm thinking of.
Mugello.
So welcome. And to kick things off, I've got a Ferrari related question for the Ferrari fan of the two of us. So if you've been watching probably more than 2 minutes of coverage from this weekend, you'll have heard the word Tifosi, which you could probably make a good stab at what it means. It obviously relates to the Ferrari fans, but Roger, what does Tifosi mean?
Tifosi means it is pretty much.
Tifosi.
It is exactly that. It's just the community and love and passion for Ferrari. So if you're it's not even because I always used to think it was just like an Italian Ferrari fan and a group of fans in Italy as a Tifosi, but everywhere around the world now they call them the Tifosi, which is just a Ferrari through and through. So
Oh, okay.
I don't
You don't
actually know
know.
in Italian what it means.
Okay, because
So
that's what I thought.
I
I
think
thought
I think
maybe
it's just it's a word given to that. It probably mean yeah,
yeah, it's like a nickname,
yeah.
like a. I sort of I my guess was that it meant fan in Italian, but I don't think that's the case. So yeah, thanks for answering that. And
I sort of just yeah. It probably does. It must mean something in Italian. So
well,
well,
to save us looking it up, if anyone's listening to this and knows what tifosi means, if it is in fact an Italian word,
yes,
please let us know.
I'm sure we will have an Italian listener this week. If we've had ones from Barbados, Alan, we're going to have somebody from Italy after the Italian Grand Prix, I'm sure.
Here's hoping. So that's my question for you. I believe you have a
Oh,
question for me.
I've got a question for you. Let's start with the Ask Alan. So our weekly time to ask you a question. So Alan, I am going to quickly send you a photo. Have a look at the photo. This is one I actually put up on social media this week in our stories. It came at the start of the race weekend, when all the team principals went out for a meal together. Christian Horner put it up saying date night, and others put it up saying who would you want to sit with and different things. So I put the question up on our social media on Instagram asking our followers who they would want to sit beside. I got a number of replies, but my Ask Alan to you, this is one just from me because I just thought, because hadn't seen a reply from you in it, who would you want to sit beside around the table?
My initial response to the question was like, oh, well, like Toto Wolff, Mercedes fan. I also just would hope to be beside him in the hope that some of his success would just sort of like sprinkle on me. Hopefully that's not a euphemism. I don't mean that in a weird way. He's a very successful man, very successful businessman, and also a driver back in his day, I think.
Yep.
So him, but then I see, now I'm not sure of his name, but the McLaren team principal,
Yep.
just he looks in a different world than the rest of the table if you look at him. So I'll have what he's having. So either one of the front two.
Either one of those. I thought you were going to say Gunther.
No,
No.
he's. I just wouldn't be able to be on his level in terms of conversation.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah, I thought you might have picked Toto, but yeah, and good point as to why as well to sit and to chat to him. You know, whenever you say that he was a racer, there's a very common photo that is going around. If you type in Toto Wolff as a racing driver, you can see him in his full-on sponsor of Red Bull, which is crazy. Obviously, with his rivalry with them now. So yeah, so you'll see him in like race overalls wearing Red Bull.
Oh,
Uh,
right. Yeah, yeah.
have you just
This
searched
this
it?
one.
Yep, straight away. There you go. First one that comes up. So it is.
That's
So
great.
yeah, I
Gosh,
have
he has not changed a bit.
I
He
know.
has aged well.
He has. He definitely has. So we're back in Italy, back in Europe. Fourth race now. Fourth race of the season. It is. They're going to start coming thick and fast after this gap. But it's going to be it's good. So we had qualifying. Obviously, it's the first sprint race that we had as well this season, the first of three. And I am a big fan of the sprint races. I just like having something to watch, the qualifying on Friday, having a race on Saturday, and then I just think it's really really good. I'd love to. Did you like it? Did you enjoy?
Oh, yeah, it was great. And I imagine it was everything that the FIA and Formula One hoped it would be.
Yeah,
Like I think it's the reason they brought it in.
yeah.
Obviously,
It's
ultimately, not a whole lot changed, but
no, no.
it was as dramatic
Yeah,
as the
and
finish of
this
a
is
race.
this is the thing. Whenever you say maybe not a lot has changed, like or position wise and everything. So one of the main things which I'd love to talk about actually towards the end of this is they say that there's not much overtaking in Imola, and it's why a lot of people don't like it. So, some people love it because of the history and everything, and just the nature of the track. Some people don't. They say there's little overtaking, but we with the sprint race, one thing I think changed the dynamic massively of this weekend obviously was the weather. And if it was just a dry weekend, I think it would have looked a lot different. But we had in qualifying, looking back to Friday, it feels a lot feels a long time ago now. It's been a long weekend for both of us bags under our eyes. Well, I do, not saying you do, Alan, but I know that looking at the qualifying on Friday, like five red flags, I had missed it because of we were busy during the day, so I was watching it on had it recorded on Sky, and it was just fast. Like you're like, oh, there's another one, there's another one, there's another one. So it's just like trying to fast forward through the bits, just to see actually who was going to get what position. So five red flags, the most in any qualifying ever. So that's obviously went down a lot to the rain. And yeah,
Yeah,
so
it
not
just kills it. It like it for a fan. It's
yeah,
just it must have been brutal being there. One, you're in the rain, so
yeah,
you're getting absolutely pelted down, and then you don't actually have anything to watch,
yeah,
and it cut like some of them were at the end of a session, so it just cut
yeah,
that short, so you're not seeing as much as what you've hoped to,
yeah,
and also just like for the viewer, I would have missed it because I it was on at 4 and I don't finish work until 5. Excuse me. But to be honest, actually, if I had got home at 5 and just turned it on, I probably would have seen
yeah,
the main part.
yeah. It was so they said 100. Well, I'm not. It was 1 hour 48 minutes for a qualifying, so it's pretty much that is longer than some races. Whenever
Yeah.
you take into account some of the ones that have no safety cars or virtual safety cars, but they're pretty like the grid was sort of predictable in what it was. Obviously, the Max and Leclerc front row, and then which led to the sprint race yesterday. And really, again with that, obviously it was dry, so we got to see a very different one from qualifying. And straight off the line, Max had a poor start. Leclerc had a good start. Very different from today, like role reversed.
Yeah.
But for the sprint race, for sure, like Leclerc got a good getaway, and you can see I was watching it, and as a Ferrari fan, and then I was like, this is great. After lap 5, I was like, he is just staying out of the DRS. I was like, he's at 1.5, 1.6, 1.7, then back to 1.6. This is this is going to be close at the end if his tires go off, and then obviously, so I could see that the Red Bulls had pace. But yeah, what was your thoughts on the sprint? Anything stood out to you, or
Um, the what stood out to me was the deceptive, like first, not corner, but the bend right after the start finish line. It sort of looks like Leclerc has the inside line and therefore a bit of an advantage, but the minute they're past that, then Max has the inside line. So it's actually not obviously in the sprint race where Leclerc got off to such a good start. It didn't matter,
yeah,
but all things equal, first has the advantage on that track, which
yeah,
from just them lining up, you sort of could. Well, I was drawn into a false sense of Leclerc could easily easily get that. So
Yeah,
no, it was great. Like it's over surprisingly quick.
it is. It
Like when
is.
you're just, I suppose when you're used to like an hour and a half, and then all of a sudden, like 25 minutes in, you're like, oh, there's only like two laps left, and it's
Yeah,
just starting to heat up.
yeah.
Um, and then yeah, the
And
way it
I like
finished, obviously.
I do like that. I like that it is actually quick. I know some of the guys were saying in the commentary that they're like, oh, if only there's 10 more laps, or if we could extend it a little bit, like that's then close enough to half a race,
Yeah,
where it's not really a sprint at that point. Like this is literally just go for it as quick as you can for a short period of time. And I like there is enough that can change. Obviously, if you make a mistake or crash, as we've seen at the very beginning with Guan Yu Zhou, like that means he's starting the back. There's no, like, you've got to make sure you race as fast as you can, but
yeah.
keep it on the track.
And part of the beauty of it is that it's a one tire sprint.
Yeah,
To use their word, so if you added 10 laps to it, it would take the soft tire out of
yes,
contention, whereas
yeah,
it's just long enough to push the soft
yeah.
tire, and then obviously the medium tire
Or if
handle.
a team,
Yeah,
sorry, like,
like Haas did, it's long enough that the medium tire gains an advantage towards the end, which we
yeah,
saw with Kevin Magnussen at the end. Like at the
yeah,
start, sort of dropped down, and the commentators put Haas on blast. Like they were saying, it's just a silly mistake that they shouldn't have
yeah,
done. They're the only team to go on mediums, and then towards the end, he starts
yeah,
to work his way back up.
yeah. One thing that I was just loving and was watching Signs and how well he just performed through it. Starting, obviously, qualifying on Friday was was good, but he was obviously started 10th, had his accident, so starting 10th, I was like, oh, what can he do? And then finishing fourth was a great result, which I think leads very nicely into the race today from the get go, from the start of the race. First corner, as you say, like they go up there, whoever has the inside line, he was on the outside, but at the start of the race with Ricardo, or Ricciardo, they like he was that bit ahead. There was room and everything. Did you see the onboard of Bottas whenever they
Um,
touched and came together?
yeah, yes, but remind me, so because I
So
know
at the start,
Ricardo was saying he got bumped, but the commentators were saying
yeah,
no, he didn't.
no,
He's
yeah.
making that up. So
So straight,
obviously, sorry,
sorry,
no, no,
straight away, whenever I seen it, I was like, oh no, like he's just cut in, and Ricardo, like, it's Sainz's fault. Then I seen the replay. I was like, oh no, like Ricardo's just come in and clipped his back, and like it wasn't his fault, Sainz's fault. And then it was the onboard of Bottas that really showed you it was the as Ricardo came in, and what made him think he got bumped was just the curb, the inside curb, which sort of just pushed him out that little bit, because of the track and the wet and the intermediate tires, all that stuff. He just felt he got hit, and that's just what took him that little bit and pushed him into signs. But it's just like
but
going back to Australia 2 weeks ago, like that. Very early on, what, first second lap with signs, first lap he didn't make a complete lap, and
yeah,
I
and
feel for him.
the commentators said that um, prior to Australia, he had the best finishing
Yeah,
stat of like 30 or 36 consecutive races. That may
yeah,
be wrong. It's in the 30s though, and
yeah.
then 2 races in a row he goes
And
out right at the
was
right.
the 17 races in the points as well that he had at that point, and then obviously, but got it for him. But then Ferraris did. They had a poor start. They really did. Like they off the line, they weren't great. I actually have a photo I just seen before we started this as well, of the like a split second after start, and you can see as they leave where they sit in their little box. The Red Bull rear tires have just passed the white line, whereas Leclerc's just halfway. So from that initial get go, they're already half a car length ahead within a
Oh
split
wow!
second. So I'll send I'll put the photos here, you'll see it. But they really Red Bull really got a good start, as did Norris as well, which obviously took him
Yeah,
in third position pretty quickly. Um, but
great start by him.
yeah,
And obviously, I suppose we don't necessarily have to do things in order, but the commentators. So I excuse me, I watched it delayed, so I watched the highlights, which are actually quite good. It's like a good probably hour and a half, but they have breaks and everything, so it's not quite. But it's not just they basically do a highlight show, but it's a good chunk of the race. It's not just like lap 1 to 5, and then all of a sudden you're in lap 15, and like it speeds through it. So,
Yeah.
they were showing when Leclerc took Norris shortly after that, and Norris just let him through, and they're just
Yeah.
like, he knows that's not his race, and he knows that he could potentially podium if something goes wrong,
Yeah.
but now is not the time to fight for that.
Yeah.
And it's great. Obviously, I'm sure that's probably what he was thinking. He's a smart guy, but it's funny. It's great the insight that commentators have
Yes.
on that.
It is.
And almost prophetic.
Yeah.
Because,
One thing at the start I was looking and really wanting, which I know is not going to happen, which is whenever you have the safety car out and they leave, we've the safety cars we've seen this year is Leclerc and Verstappen at the front, and you know that it's going to be a race to the first corner. Today it's like as Max and Perez, I was like, we've lost our race already. Like as in a good rivalry at the front. I was like, Perez isn't going to go for this. His job now is to keep Norris behind. And I was like, I just would love Red Bull as a team to be like, do you know what, guys, go for it. Like both of you go for it. But we're
yeah.
not. I would love it. I really would love it. And I think Perez, like he really, like he didn't have the ultimate pace of Max today, but the Red Bulls both had they clearly had the advantage in the race. But it will be if it gets to a point in the season where, yeah, if Perez is in front, I would love them to let the two of them race and see what they can do together.
Yeah. No, it's like they've seemed to have worked things out very, very quickly, having
Yeah.
had issues
Yeah.
in the last couple of races,
Yeah.
to get to the point where they are obviously clearly the fastest on the straight, but faster over the whole track is
Yeah. They were.
phenomenal.
Yeah. And I think that it might have helped. So they're definitely fast on the straight, and we've seen that in Jeddah, like that they are quick on the straight. But it will be. I'm looking forward to seeing Miami. Obviously, there's a lot of corners in Imola today, and with only one DRS straight, which is a very long straight, the Rebels were just able to push it that little bit. But it'll be good to see in Miami what that does, unless Rebel have had some upgrades as well, which was a question that we asked during the week, as who would have the biggest upgrades. Or it was last week actually, wasn't it? And then on race
Last
week,
week, yep.
most people thought Ferrari. Then second was Red Bull. It looks like Red Bull. I'm not sure if they brought upgrades, but they're definitely brought something, and they didn't seem so nervous around reliability that Wilson spoke about at all this weekend. They were just
Yep.
like, "Yep, we're here. We're going to go for this," and you can see that edginess has gone around. Are we going to finish this race? But that's the Red Bull. Another car, Mercedes. What like you've talked about Perez and um, Max being quite close or love a race between them. Russell and Hamilton don't look like they're going to be racing at all at the minute. Like they are.
No.
Russell has done so well for that car. You can see that Lewis is having trouble, but I seen today. So Russell's results are fourth, fifth, third, fourth. Like that's a good.
Yeah.
Like for
It's
a
a
car that is not performing well, he hasn't finished lower than fifth.
I know. It's so strange, and it's too early to know why, but you have to assume they have the same car. Why is
Yeah.
Hamilton so much poorer?
Yeah.
Like yeah, I don't get it. It's obviously it's showing
Something's
Russell
happening.
in yeah, it's showing
Yeah.
Russell in a fantastic light. Like
Yeah.
he's not in the car he thought he would be in, but he's doing the job that he needs to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Um,
Which is
like
like I know you're a Mercedes fan, so you would love this anyway. But I would love them to bring some upgrades which sort of that car out. Because adding Russell up there to the front, if you can see, if you could get him into the mix, even with Norris as well, like if those guys, like to have five potential winners of a Grand Prix, even six, would be phenomenal for us as fans to see where it's
yeah,
not is Max or Leclerc going to win it today.
yeah.
Um,
Well, they said was it in the top 10 there were 8 different teams
yep,
at the end, which is
yeah,
phenomenal.
yeah. And then if you look at the Constructors' Championship, we're in race four and every team has a point. I was like, because there's been a few seasons now where some teams are just like, are they even ever going to get a point? Like if you look at Williams, you look at Haas. So I actually went on to have a look back to see when the last time it was that all the teams had scored point, and it was the 2019. So not that long ago, but still what 3.5 years. So it was Germany of 2019 whenever Williams got 1 point that year in that race. So that got them, that means that every damn team had a point, but it's still gone back a few years. So, but yet we're only four races in. So I think that it will be, if Williams have a little bit more pace, they'll challenge, and that last race could be a good one.
Yeah.
With all
Yeah.
Haas actually, and this whole thing of being so closely linked to Ferrari and all the teams in uproar. Haas are like still third from the bottom. They've only got 15 points. Like we've seen their improvements so much, but yet they're not high in the like
No,
up there.
but that's because of Schumacher. He's
It
not
is.
he's not really performing, which is
Yeah.
like I was especially in social media we've asked a few questions around sort of I asked about Schumacher when almost when he gets to Ferrari, who will he replace?
Yeah.
And everyone was in. There were two camps. Basically, I said, who will he replace, Leclerc or Sainz? And there were only two camps, but nobody thought it was Leclerc.
Yeah.
So the camps were either he'll obviously replace Sainz or he's rubbish and will never be at Ferrari.
Yeah.
And I was a staunch defender of him in those moments, but I don't know what's going on. He
Yeah.
just doesn't seem to be performing, and
Yeah.
the car is clearly capable.
Yeah. I would nearly think some people may really disagree with this, but I would nearly take this season as his rookie season. Last year, he was at the back. He was in a car that just could not perform, so he wasn't able to defend and he wasn't able to attack. Yes, he was driving in Formula One, but they were a second a lap slower than everyone. It was pretty much him and um, Mazepin who were
Yeah,
competing against each other. So it's not really a race. It was nearly like a let's just get used to the mechanics, the team, all that being in the press, the media. So this is the year that I think that I'm gonna treat it like this is his rookie season. Give him a season, see how he does in this, and then let's really judge him next season on how he performs. But he was like,
yeah.
yeah, well, he done well on Friday. If you look at his performance, he was
Yes, yeah, he did.
sixth or seventh on Friday. So like that, yes, it was raining, but you've still got to perform. You still got
Oh,
to show up, and
absolutely.
you still got to drive well. So yeah, Mick, I hope we can do it. The
So
race,
obviously it wasn't a particularly eventful race until the end, and one of those reasons would have been DRS not being enabled. So
yeah,
obviously, in the wet conditions, so DRS makes you faster, less downforce. Therefore, well, if you're going faster with less downforce, it makes it harder to slow down quickly, and in wet conditions, obviously that could be tragic.
yeah,
So, understandably, there's no DRS for the start, but then the dry line becomes very, very evident,
yeah,
and the rain forecast clears away. So
yeah,
even when they're on intermediates, which is fine, you can understand that. Then they move to slicks, normal tires, and it's still not enabled.
yeah.
So
Oh,
you obviously watched different commentary than I did, but what I heard was Hamilton when he was, I think, behind, was it Gasly?
yeah.
He was complaining like, why man, why? I don't know why I did an American accent. Um,
It
he
still sounded like him.
um, yeah, he was complaining, and as you said, like the commentators, were they
Yeah,
complaining as well?
they were just like, "What is going on? Why have they not enabled this already? Like they should be letting these guys." Because it was like you can see in those moments you were able to see why people don't love Imola for the lack of overtaking, and they were just like stuck behind. And yes, the cars can follow closer, but there still wasn't the overtaking that there could have been. And I was just like the commentators. I was just like, come on, just open already. Let's get the pace going. And it was one of those races that sort of answers the do we still need DRS question. Like definitely. Like I think that it just shows that it's needed big time, and that was whenever like it made a difference whenever they done it. And then another thing that obviously made a huge difference in the race to add a bit of drama was the desire to go for this point, this fastest lap, take it off somebody else and add it to yourself. So Ferrari obviously pulled Leclerc in lap 50 to try and get that, which at the time I was just like, good call. It was a good call. They had to try something, they had to try and take it off him. Little did I think it was just too soon. Because it did give the two rebels a chance to come in and pit as well, especially because they could work out where he came out. Now, whenever Leclerc came out behind Norris, um, you could think that was bad, but I was like, this is perfect time because he's now going to have DRS with brand new tires, which he did. Second lap, you could see he flew past Norris, and I was like, this is great. What a setup for trying to get the fastest lap. But um, the pace of the Rebel today was just so much like Max got that, and as we've seen, like whenever obviously Leclerc had the spin and just was that little bit too. He was just wanted to catch Perez so much that he had that spin, and I was like, "Oh no, I was got it." But at the same time, he done so well to catch at the end and to really go for it. And as he was doing that, I was like, he has to. In this now, the amount of DRS he has, he should be setting a faster lap again, but just never got it, which really shows that Rebel's pace was there the whole time, and Max he done a great job. He really
Yeah,
did.
and obviously they just responded to that. Leclerc pitted, and then immediately they brought in Perez because that's really all they needed. Like Perez, as we saw in Abu Dhabi last year, is very hard to get past, and
Yeah,
very good defender. So they
yeah,
didn't need to bring both of them in because
yeah,
if they got Perez out in front of him, then he still needs to pass Perez
yeah,
before Verstappen's a risk. But then they saw how quick they were, so then it was like, oh well, we might as well bring Verstappen and get
yeah,
him maximum points, and that's what happens. Like maximum points, probably the most points ever awarded in a
yeah,
weekend. He got
yeah.
8 points for finishing the sprint first, 25 points for finishing the race in first, and the fastest lap.
Fastest lap. Only way they could have, as a team, got more is they were 1 point off the maximum you can ever get is if Perez
Perez
comes
coming
second
second.
in the sprint. That was it. But other than that, like what a weekend! What a dominant weekend from like the change and the extreme difference for Max not even finishing in Australia. So
Yeah,
and
well, that's the
obviously,
thing. It's propelled him. Like he's now
uh,
second in the drivers' championship,
yeah,
and Red Bull are right up into second. And like so, I think Verstappen's still 20 something points behind
yeah,
Leclerc,
yeah,
but Red Bull are only single figures, if
yeah,
not like very low double
yeah.
digits behind Ferrari.
It is, and I think once Sainz is able to get past the first lap, I think it will. Oh man,
But
heartbreak
no,
for
but then he needs to learn how to get past the second.
yeah, it's true. It's true. He'll get there. But it was good. Like Red Bull, fair play. Like what a weekend. The first 1-2 since 2016. Someone put up. So some people are geniuses on like stats. Straight. I love stats. I love looking these things up. I would not really take the time, other than that today, to try and find out when the last time someone scored a point was. But someone had put up straight like I'd say 3 minutes after they had clearly been working it out. They're like 2,030 days since the last 1-2. I was like, who has worked this out? But someone had done it. So since Red Bull's last 1-2 was 2,030 days, 2016. But yeah. And then also
So
we
sorry, just to go back, Verstappen. So Leclerc's on 86 points and Verstappen's on 59 points. So 27 points in it. So
yeah.
Leclerc is guaranteed to be leading after the next race, but it could be very close depending how it goes. And then,
We have Monaco where he may crash like every year.
yeah, that's a very good point. And Verstappen is very good in Monaco.
He is.
And then Ferrari have 124 points, and Red Bull have 113. So 11 points in it.
Yeah.
So
It's good. It's good. Well, we also done our Roger versus Allen this week, where we each have to pick a driver. I took
yes,
it's now it was 1-0 to myself picking Ricardo for Australia. You went with Bottas. You picked first this week. You went with Bottas, who started. I think he was seventh, starting from seventh.
seventh,
I went
finished fifth.
with yeah. I went with I took a gamble because it was wet, so I went with Mick Schumacher. And looking at the start of the race, I was like, it could be wet. If he does what he done on Friday, and Bottas could potentially not do too well, I was like, I'm just gonna risk this and go with Mick, and I couldn't have been more wrong. So like it just was not. So it's 1-1.
1-1.
You won. Early days in
Yeah,
the season, but yeah.
well,
So
absolutely, because Bottas, yeah, Bottas could very easily not get you any points. So
yep,
it's
yep,
a good win for me because he obviously finished he finished well. Whereas
yeah.
you could
He
easily pick
did.
him on a week where he does absolutely nothing.
Yeah,
Very interesting though. Just going back to the race and Bottas, obviously the final stage of the race, Bottas is
oh yes.
closing on Russell. It
Yeah,
it sort of shows the problem that Bottas has is like they were convinced he was fat, like he should have overtaken him, or
yeah,
he had the ability, he had the pace to overtake him, and you saw it, like he was on him constantly. He
yeah,
was right up Russell's rear wing for like the last like 5 laps, and
yeah.
just couldn't overtake.
No,
Whereas you knew if that was Verstappen, he would have just took his foot off the brake and bombed down the inside.
yeah,
But Bottas just doesn't seem to have that fight in
yeah.
him. But then again, he finished fifth, his best finish in a good wee while. So
That or Russell is incredibly smart and good at how he saves his battery and recharges it and when to
very,
deploy. Because I
very true.
was watching that, I was like, oh, here, this could be a repeat of last year where they both had that huge crash. Russell got out and slapped his helmet and all that stuff. So I was like, this is going to get feisty towards the end between the two of them. But I know you said you were watching the highlights on Channel 4. So I had flicked them on just to see where it was at. And all I heard the commentators saying was, oh, here we have Bottas and Russell at it again. I was like, oh, the race must be nearly over, but it was lap 12. So actually, most of the race, they were close to each other and they were going at it at that point as well. So I was like, this actually was probably most of the race where they were relatively close, and it's just he just couldn't do it. So, but yeah, but what a race weekend again. Other news, Alan, this week. I know we're close towards the end, but do you think that Hamilton's just going to pack it in and go and sit in Stamford Bridge?
I know, I saw that. Smart, like when you have the money and you have the opportunity to buy a huge club, why not? You may say because he supports one of their rivals, but
Is he just going to make them rubbish?
yeah. Um, so yeah,
So
but like
people who aren't football fans, sorry, whenever I say Stamford Bridge, there's been news put out this week to anyone listening that Lewis Hamilton has been linked to being a part owner in owning Chelsea Football Club in London. The thing about that is Chelsea, obviously being in London, their one of their big rivals is Arsenal, and that is who Lewis Hamilton supports. So sorry, just want to put that in.
yeah.
So
That said, like a guy like Hamilton brings in 40 million quid a year, so you got to imagine he spends a fraction of that, invests whether it be in stocks or property or whatever, like the rest. So like you got to imagine he's worth like a few 100 million. Like he's definitely earned a
yeah,
few 100 million over his
yeah,
career. Um, So like it's not a case of he's buying them. He's going to be making the financial decisions. He's going to be putting up the money to like if they need 100 million to buy
yeah,
someone, like at that stage he's basically topping up. Sorry, this is my very naive insight into it,
yeah,
but when someone like him and Serena Williams are putting money into a football team, you imagine it's just like you or I would put money into Coca-Cola or whatever. It's just this is an investment that could pay a good return, so
yeah,
I'll just throw money in
yeah.
and sit back and get the dividends.
So is him and Serena Williams have been linked to it, but they're partnering with a bigger company. Is that right? So it's
Yeah, so
literally
it's
they're a small part holder.
Yeah, it's like so say Abigail wants to buy Preston. You heard it here
Yep.
first. um, like say she had 20 million but needed 10 more million,
Yeah.
she'd go round and be like,
Okay.
who wants to buy 5% of it and
Yeah.
give me blah blah blah. So it's literally just a top up. They call it a consortium, so just a group of people. It's the same with what happened to Newcastle. Like it was a consortium, a group of people who all chip in, and
Okay.
then they'll appoint a chairman, like a leader of the group, and everything like that.
Yeah.
And they'll probably have to put in money regularly, obviously, for like thing of football. Well, actually, I don't know. I suppose it depends. Like, um, you'd imagine Chelsea's pretty profitable, so maybe they would never have to put in money. But if they bought it for sort of thing, like football's like anything's just getting more and more and more
Yeah.
popular.
Yeah.
And Chelsea are looking to build a new stadium, and they obviously have been successful the last couple of years. So if you buy a portion of them for, well, if they're being sold for 2 to 3 billion in a couple of years, if they're worth 5 billion, then there's
Something crazy.
tens of millions in your pocket.
Yeah. It's mad. It is mad. And then just to finish, as it was one of the Italian Grand Prix, finished with Ferrari news, signs, renewed his contract. So great news for him. Sad news this week during the week as well about that Charles Leclerc was out in Italy and someone, we don't know what happened, but took his £320,000 watch. So, which that can never be nice. Like they didn't go into. I haven't read details around what happened, but I know the same thing happened to Lando Norris.
Yeah, at the
Oh, he
Euro
was at Euros
20.
at Wembley.
Yeah, it was the Euro 2020 final.
Yeah,
So someone mugged him at his car. I
that's
suppose
crazy.
like obviously like you don't condone any of that, but it's like when, and I hope me saying this doesn't come across like I'm doing it, but like these guys are sponsored by Richard Mille, which if you
Yeah,
look at any of their wrists, like
yeah,
all those weird looking watches, like
yeah.
they're gonna have it. They're an
Yeah,
easy target.
yeah. It's
So yeah,
crazy, isn't it? Like
it's so
that's
sad.
such a to know that that's a potential thing at any time. Like
Yeah,
it's a high price to, but
and that's the thing.
it's part of the sport now,
Like
isn't it?
you'd think anywhere in Italy he'd be okay.
Yeah, I know.
Being
That's the
A
thing.
Ferrari driver.
Yeah, and with that, if someone obviously, well, are the chances high that it was an Italian? Probably being
Yeah,
within town
but
in Italy.
at the same time, people who mug people
Yeah,
like need the money more than they do. So I'm sure they're
yeah,
not going. Oh, actually, I'll not choose this opportunity because I
yeah,
support Ferrari. When if you're in that position, you probably don't watch Formula One
yeah,
that regularly.
yeah. But then it's
So
also like
yeah,
how, yeah,
yeah. Well,
it's
this thing like if you got mugged, your life's in danger. If you're if you were mugged, I imagine you don't sleep well. You
yeah,
probably lose your appetite. Like these
yeah,
guys need to be in peak
yeah.
condition going into a race, so if it'll affect your whole week.
It would. Which I like. I'm not saying any part of that did with Charles. It didn't look like it did at all. But what like for him tonight to think of the whole week, it's just been, especially with the hype of him leading the championship by so much going into Ferrari territory, literally geographically. Like it's just I feel for him this week. But yeah, he will come back strong, and we will see what happens in Miami 2 weeks
Yeah,
time.
I know. It is crazy just the amount of travel they do. You'd think they would pin them all together. Like you'd think from a an eco-friendly, like reducing your carbon emissions and carbon
Yeah,
footprint, they would have Miami and the US Grand Prix, and
yeah,
whenever Vegas comes in like a 3 week turnaround.
yeah.
Seems silly to go, and I suppose that's what I think. Did we bring that up last week? Like going from, um, oh, where were they? Abu Dhabi? No, not Abu Dhabi. Saudi
That's
Arabia
all
to
right. Yes,
Australia, and
yeah,
now Australia to Italy
yeah.
to Miami, and then back to Europe for all the Europe things.
So
Like,
part of the reason is, so do you know, with all the stuff that they have, so even like whenever the team principals are sitting on the pit wall looking out, so they have two. Apparently, they have two or three of those that they have.
Like, yes,
So
that go around the world.
yeah, so whenever they're sitting at that one there to end the race, there's another one that has been sent to the next track, so that they can, the people who build them just fly straight there, start to build. So if they did have them all pinned together, it'd be so much harder. So that's
Yes.
the logistics around it. So really, it is, for part of it, it's just a flight and the shipping of the car, if that makes sense. So they have so much of the other stuff that's just moving around, which I didn't really know this until last year. I just thought that they were really fast and like they ship things super quick. Like I know I've been to Monaco, and after the Grand Prix, whenever they finish, these guys, it's crazy how quick they take things down.
Yeah.
So like
Um,
they fly through it. So I was like, oh man, they really are on this because they must have to get out, but they have to.
I'll link it into the show notes, or the description, however you're watching or listening to this. They're DHL, who are this like freight sponsors of F1. They're responsible for shipping everything around the world, and they do like a great video explaining it. So I'll for anyone who's made it this far into the podcast, thank you. And there'll be a link below that you can watch that. I think it's like 6 or 7 minutes. So yeah, that's a good point. Just before we go, I brought up the fantasy table.
Oh, I must have been
Um,
awful. Oh, I haven't even checked,
so
Alan. Oh, go on.
so obviously just for this race, Paul T. That's not your Paul, is it? Paul
Oh yeah,
Raffle.
my father-in-law.
Paul.
Did he
Yep.
get top?
Paul. Yep.
Oh, I'm so
276
happy.
points.
He will be so.
Um,
I'm
he
surprised he hasn't.
used he used his, is it Mega Driver or MD?
Yes.
So,
On
again,
Verstappen.
I can't see.
Okay.
It just says it's come up. So 276 points. So congratulations, Paul. Followed
Wow,
by
in 1 week.
in 1 week, yeah.
Man,
Roger, you did not come last.
I didn't.
Because I did.
Alan, to me both. Did I come second?
No, Abigail came second last. Your wife.
Okay.
Wait. Oh no, scratch that.
It
I
was me.
didn't come last. Abigail
Abigail came
came
last.
last. I
I
came
came last.
13th. No, Abigail came last.
Okay. Where did
You
I
came
come?
7th.
Oh, that's all right.
So 276 points for Paul, who used his MD, whatever, I
Okay.
can't remember what that means. And then Piero P, who I imagine is leading the whole thing. He is killing it. Came second with 218 points.
Yeah.
And Speeder M also used his MD, and he had 209 points.
Okay.
So, and
Overall, then that means I think who is.
so I can go to the leaderboard. 2 seconds.
Oh man.
So for the season so far, Piero B, our Italian person in the league, is
Oh,
on 915 points.
good
Paul is
on.
third.
Yeah.
Paul's
He's,
third.
he's climbed, but he's used that Mega Driver thing.
True.
Um,
But so have I.
I brought Alonso in. Like, oh, it's such a good driver. It's just not happening for him this season, and he is costing me points big
I
time.
had
Like,
I had Signs as my turbo driver this week.
oh,
Bro.
Alan. At
Yep.
least he would have done well yesterday.
And I had it. Yeah. So congratulations, Paul. If you aren't already, you can sign up for the Fantasy F1, and our league code is on the screen now, and you'll find it on our Instagram and in the description below. So feel free to sign up. Bit of crack, easy to like, sort of a nice wee thing to get you into it. Gives you a bit of stake in the race to follow along with. So yeah, join that F1 show's Fantasy F1 League, and we'll see you on the leaderboard, although I'll be looking up towards you probably. And yeah, so I think that'll do us. Thank you so much for listening. We'd
Yep.
really appreciate it if you gave us a rating, or a review, on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. So, and other than that, you can find us everywhere online at that F1 show. So thank you. and we'll speak to you next week.
Have a great week.